So I'm curious what you think of, but tonight's topic is harvesting the good in everything.
hmm
So what does that mean to you?
Yeah, so the first time I heard it was actually Michael Beckwith. I don't know if anybody knows who that is, but yeah, he has this church in Los Angeles called the Agape Spiritual Center,
Okay.
and it's non-denominational. It's more like the universe is all good, benevolent, and like you create your reality type vibe. So he has a podcast called Take Back Your Mind that I really like. He has an extremely soothing, comforting voice that I just can't get enough of. I love him. And he has this saying that is harvest the good in every situation, accept it for what it is, and then forgive the rest. Which, what more can you do with that? Like,
Mm,
how could that be better said? When I think of it, I just think of every single situation and just trying to find what is the good in it, even if you can't do it right away. You might need a little time, but just recognizing that in every single thing, it may have felt terrible at the time, devastating. And then after, you can look back and find something good in it. And it's what you focus on that matters, right? So if you're focusing on the good things that came out of that, you can completely reframe the situation completely. And there's a whole study that talks about how memories are just stories we tell ourselves. So if you're telling yourself this terrible, horrific story and you relive it every single time, that is going to keep impressing upon yourself, upon your memory of the situation, and you're not going to be able to get the positive out of it. So
mm,
being able to look at terrible things that have happened to you or tough situations, even if it's just like something simple, like you got stuck in traffic and you were late to your hair appointment or whatever, you might have missed an accident.
hmm
Whatever the situation is, like something good came out of it. Maybe you're hairdresser said it wasn't a big deal and it helped her relate to being late that day. I don't know, but there's always something positive that can come from it. And so for me, when I think of harvest the good, it's always finding those teeny tiny moments in every situation that you can hold on to that can help you not have a bad day. And I don't want to have bad days. So,
I think it's interesting too, where you said it's almost like you can work on things that have happened already to kind of reframe those situations. So
mhm,
I just read or finished the book You Can Heal Your Life by Louise Hay, and she has a
mhm,
workbook that goes along with it. Initially, I thought the workbook like corresponded to the chapters of the book, but it didn't. So I was like, okay, let me just read the book first and then I'll look at the workbook. So I just started looking at it and it's like trying to take you back to, okay, describe your childhood. And then you're just with no context or whatever, just describe your childhood. And then it's, okay, what negative things did you say about it? Or what? And it was interesting because I wasn't really that negative, but I feel like it's because I've definitely worked on myself a lot already. But it's interesting because she kept going deeper and was like, okay, now from this situation, how do you look at your inner child? Think of your or look at a picture of yourself as a kid and talk to that kid. And that was choking me up. Even though I didn't really have anything specific, I was like, dang, I've never really given my inner child and it's funny because I think about this with my own future kids. I'm like, man, I really want to create this lifestyle for them where they feel like they can be empowered to do anything that they want to do. And it's funny because you don't really relate that to yourself. You have to go back in time and be like, hey, nobody probably really talked to you in this way. And because of that, certain seeds were planted that have been harvested that maybe didn't produce the right flower or fruit that you're looking for. And so to go back and work on that and to reframe things that you've gone through or whatever the case may be, there's a lot of work that's involved with that a typical person doesn't really talk about or think to do.
yeah, I could go super deep into that because there's a lot of stuff that I've been reading about it where you can like reprogram your past into something else and then have it come to a different resolution as you come to the present.
Mm.
But it gets very woo, so we won't do it today. But
What? Holding out on me.
I know maybe we'll do a whole different thing of reparenting your inner child. But I actually did a meditation that I recorded on talking to your inner child,
Mm,
meeting your child at the part where you just have some core fucked up memory, and meeting that child and giving that child a hug and telling them that everything is going to be okay. And I'm going to get choked up just thinking about it, like you
mm,
said. But I had a very rough childhood, and doing that made such a difference in my life. And I was like, if I can look at those situations differently, like, I can look at any situation differently because you're a child, you're innocent. Like, no one is supposed to hurt you. You did nothing wrong.
mhm,
And to have all of these like memories of being abused and told that you're worthless, knowing that had nothing to do with me, like, at
mhm,
all. That had nothing to do with me as a child. It had everything to do with the pain that my parents are going through and the struggles that they were dealing with and the things that they were told and the things that they never dealt with. And being able to reframe that as them doing the best that they could and giving that grace to them has me looking at everybody as just doing the best that they can with the information that they have and the level of self-awareness that they have and their vibration and their energy. And if I'm able to see everybody as just like these flawed little children, the children are flawed. The children are perfect, but they're flawed adults that have not dealt with their inner child issues and have at some point felt unloved, uncared about, and unworthy. Then I don't take things personally anymore.
mm.
It's hard to take things personally when you look at someone that way.
And I feel like it's something that we have to constantly remind ourselves of because nobody goes into that intentionally. Everything that we experience, we're wired to react to it immediately and be like, "What did you just say?" or "What did you
Oh, no,
just"
it's practice constantly. I still,
Yeah.
look at people and you're such a dirtbag. Look at that piece of crap person over there. They're so mean. It's usually when they're doing something horrible to someone else, or if I people not putting their carts back,
Oh, man.
that it takes me to a level, and especially if the cart thing is, like, right there. Ooh, if I could run people over with my car and have no consequences, I would. It takes me to those places, you know? And then I'm just like, "It has nothing to do with you. Maybe they're having a bad day or whatever. I just it has nothing to do with me. Like, all I can do is my best." But it's a practice all the time because I will catch myself having these, like, unkind thoughts, and I'm like, "It's just a cart. You'll be
Yeah,
fine." Yeah,
so
it's a
funny.
practice. It's
I
a
know the
practice.
rest have felt that one.
Oh,
As a
that's
former Publix employee myself, put the damn cart back.
I
it's
know,
My
not that
right?
piece.
I
hard.
hate that. I hate
And I'm
that.
always like, "Your fat ass could use the steps." I say mean things. And I'm
That
like, "I
that
have no
was
business."
that is mean. That's really mean.
Oh, I'm saying the
But
same
it
thing
burns
too.
me up. It burns me up. And then I hear in this ear when I'm all burnt up and all tense, I hear my husband saying, "It's job security for somebody. So let them leave it there." And then I'm like, "But what if, and that don't make no sense. I gotta get out my car." That just irritates me.
That's so funny
You
that
know,
your
and
husband
then
said
I'm
that
like,
because I
how are
have
these people raised, especially in
right?
Florida? It's
Come
like
on.
nobody puts their carts away. I
I don't
don't understand
understand.
that.
And literally the lady's just like happy as life, just leaving her cart in the middle of a spot. And I'm just like, I see you. You see me looking at you. What are you doing right now? But then, like your husband said, I have given myself, like when I see a Publix employee on their phone, I was like, this gives this kid time to text his girlfriend, maintain his relationship because he's out here gathering carts. Like there's purpose in all of this.
Yeah.
Yes, and
Mm.
sometimes it's a good part too because there's no carts inside. So let's get to the good part. Then you
Mhm.
might be thought, you say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and get this cart because it's obvious there's no carts inside because all of them are out here blocking the
Right,
route. So that's
right,
the plus side of that,
right,
the flip
right.
side.
Or you only get the two things that you're supposed to get because you weren't able to get a cart. There are benefits.
Right.
It's funny. Oh,
Harvest the good.
man. Yeah, I think it's funny because, like we said, like, you really have to just take that step back in everything. It could be whether you're looking into your past or the situation you're dealing with in the present. I think that's why we talk about the things that are important to emphasize in your day, whether it's journaling or meditating, or there's practices that we're not really taught to implement that it helps a lot of people to do. And it's funny because I'm struggling with the journaling thing. I don't know why. I haven't been intentional about that.
Oh my God.
Meditation's great. Journaling, I don't, and it's funny because I've always wanted, even looking back when I have journaled, I'm like, ooh, I love being able to see where my head was at back then and see like the timeline of it and everything. And I'm like, I can only imagine if I did that before, what I could gather from that now. And I'm like, okay, if I know
Mm-hmm.
that now, why can't I implement it today so I can have that for the
Mm-hmm.
future?
Do you and Ray go to sleep at the same time?
Yes, usually.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That I like going to sleep at the same time as my partner. But
Hmm.
I found that threw off my whole like habit
Mm.
because I'm not going to stop what I'm like, we're on the way to bed. So I'm not going to stop what we're doing to journal. Right. But
Hmm.
if we go to bed at different times, then I'll just sit in bed for just give myself a couple minutes and journal. And so figuring
Mm.
out those things that are inhibiting me doing my habit, I started just getting up earlier, just an hour earlier or whatever, so that I could have my me time and not feel like, okay, we're creating our day together now, right? And so me stopping to journal, it doesn't feel like in the flow. So giving myself some time by myself
Mm.
made it so that's more of like just part of my day, my morning routine now.
That's pretty good. I like that. Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out.
Do you guys go to
Um,
the gym together?
so we haven't been going to the gym since we're eating weird. We're not eating
Right.
protein right now. We're only eating vegetables.
Energy's not really there.
So we've been prioritizing walking every day, which is good. But when we do go to the gym, it usually is together because our gym is like 30 minutes away. So we gotta
Does he
drive.
drive?
Yeah.
Grab your notebook, journal on
Okay.
your way there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay.
Just get it in when you're not responsible for anything.
Another thing that I had tried that I was like, it just doesn't feel the same is I got a journal app. And so I was starting,
Mm-mm.
yeah, I was starting to write stuff on my phone. And then I was like, ah, it's not the same.
No, it doesn't feel the same. And energetically, it's not the same as writing it out. Like it doesn't impart the same as typing it out.
Mm-hmm.
So they say.
No, I believe it. Luis, I want to hear what's going on in your head. What are you thinking of what we were talking about with harvesting the good and everything?
Yeah, hey everybody. First time here. I think I know Jackie's invited me a few times. And it's just on Tuesdays, for whatever reason, I just get like a bunch of things. But yeah, I think it's super, I guess, on point even for today. And I was listening to last week's poll earlier today as well. But
Hmm.
the one from today, it's I just haven't been feeling great, but I was like doing my calls and whatever. And I was just trying not to think about it. I was just like, I'm not gonna silk on this, like whatever it is that's going on. I'm just gonna continue doing calls. I'm still feeling that same way, but I think it's over now. And I think I thought about the, recording that I was watching. Like I don't know if it was Monica that said it. Like, oh, so even if the sun's up, you can find things to be grateful for or finding the good. And so, yeah, just trying to internalize that more and more, just because I feel and I remember there was a member that last week that said that he doesn't really do the grateful stuff. He just thinks, oh, it's okay. And I think he's more positive minded, maybe naturally. But I'm like the opposite. I'm like, I think it's something's broken in my head. And it's just, it's always worst case scenario, doom and gloom. Yeah, it's just constant practice with that. So definitely,
Yeah, and that's what it is, right? That practice and
yeah,
figuring out what works for you.
yeah.
With you said sulking with the calls, is it like because of the reactions you're getting from the people you're getting on the phone or like,
Today actually wasn't bad. It was probably one of the best days, weirdly enough, but obviously a lot of not
Because you were
interest.
listening to the gratitude call.
Yeah, yeah. I had a lot of pickups today, and I thought I was like, man, it's not the best time for me to call, and I still did it, and I got a lot of pickups, more than I used to, but obviously not really much going on there. But yeah, and people weren't bad either today. I've had really bad reactions before, so I don't know. I just wasn't feeling great, but maybe like life has a way to pay you back in a little weird way. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
thinking about it back, it was like 2 hours, and nobody cussed me out or anything. Yeah, I was like, hey, we're good here.
There you go.
nice.
Yeah,
That's
Yeah.
harvesting it right there.
for
Mm.
sure.
Yeah, Daniel, I don't know if you want to touch on that, but I feel like you have the best experience when it comes to persevering through those calls. And I'm sure you had moments you felt like you wanted to give up, and where you're at now is completely different.
Oh boy, between perseverance, discipline, sometimes a whole lot of tequila, sometimes stress eating. I'm kidding on the last two. Maybe the tequila. But all jokes aside, it's a lot. Sometimes you're having great calls with people. You are able to shoot the stuff with them. I'm gonna try to keep it BG on this call. You
I'm working on it.
sometimes I am horrible. You might as well think I'm in the Navy. But sometimes you can shoot the stuff with the sellers that you're on the phone with and have a great time. But then there's other times to where the sellers you're speaking with, they will cuss you out left and right. And you're thinking, what in the sweet baby Jesus is wrong with you today? And it's hard for me sometimes because I sometimes forget that it's just another person who may be having a bad day in whatever situation that they're in. If it's a pre foreclosure, maybe a recent breakup, or some family issues when it came to an inheritance and they thought they were going to get something when in reality they didn't. Whatever their situation is, you just got to know that it's temporary. And I say that to myself all the time, regardless if things are going good or things are going bad, it's only temporary. That mindset developed when I was in retail because when I made the transition from working at Publix to working at Total Wine, and I was thinking of like, oh, I'm going to work at Total Wine only for a little bit before I get into real estate full time, like what I'm doing now. The main thing that I kept on telling myself for 5 months straight until Total Wine looked to be more permanent was that it's only temporary, it's only temporary, it's only temporary, it's only temporary. I'm clocking in for my shift. It's only temporary. I have to deal with this manager that I don't like. It's only temporary. I have to see this customer who wants me to reach for the top shelf of freaking aviation gin that I do not want to grab for them because I would rather sell them another product of gin that we like to get better commission on. It's only temporary, no matter what the situation is, good or bad. The point that I'm trying to make is it's only temporary. And with that, you have to keep a stable head on your shoulders no matter what to not let the emotions get to you. I say that from experience. My method of getting out those emotions, because I couldn't necessarily find the right people to vent out to as a shoulder to cry on, metaphorically speaking, my only method was the punching bag at the gym to the point to where I would grab the gloves, I would grab the wraps and do my thing. And sometimes I would even forget those and just go bare knuckle, which I do not recommend. But you have to keep a stable head on your shoulders no matter what, regardless if you got anger issues, regardless if you got great things going great for you or anything like that. It's just you have to keep a stable head on your shoulders. That's the whole point I'm trying to make.
I love it. That's awesome. I love how you're able to really, I think, appreciate what you've experienced, and you have a lot of value to share with people that are in the shoes you were in 2 years ago.
Absolutely. And it's a surreal feeling because I'm only 25 years old as of last month, and there's people older than me that are asking me for my mindset on, hey, like, how are you 25 years old and be able to do everything that you're doing now? And
Mhm.
my thing is that I guess I experienced a lot of things too early in a manner of speaking, but it helped me mature so much faster than most people would in their 40s or 50s.
Mhm.
Now, I'm not saying that I've had a terrible life growing up. I'm not saying that I saw death or I saw this, that, whatever. My thing was is that I was very emotional on a lot of things when I shouldn't have been in the first place. But the one thing that I noticed about me that worked well is that the things that I took to heart when I shouldn't have been so hard on myself, I just flipped that energy into other things that I should be taking into heart, like making these calls, networking with people, even if they were rude to me, but it could turn out to be JV deal later on. It's just a matter of flipping that energy
Mhm.
while
Yeah.
at the same time staying positive throughout no matter what. That
And that's what I was
positivity,
gonna say. Yeah, is like throughout this whole thing, all of the ups and downs, like you can look back at it now and just be like, that's what's giving you the experience and the grit to be able to support these other people who are asking you questions, right? If you had a easy cake ride, that wouldn't be helping them because most people don't have an easy cake ride. Most people are dealing with the ugly, the ups and downs, the uncertainty, like no matter what it is, whether it's real estate or not. And being able to say, yeah, oh yeah, I went through that. And this is how I got through it. And this is what I can tell you not to do because I did. All of that stuff that wasn't good at the time or didn't feel good at the time has now turned you into someone with all of these experiences and value to share.
absolutely. The one thing that I would say helped me out the most throughout all these years, and not to get too deep, there was a time that me and my dad butted heads with each other, but you know how close we are now. But one thing that he kept on telling me, especially when we butted heads, was patience, persistence, and positivity.
Mm.
Stay patient with what you're doing, but always be persistent about it and stay positive throughout. I will get that tattooed gladly because it helped me become where I'm at now.
Yeah. Put that in the, not you, you're driving, but I feel like we should put that in the chat.
Yeah, that was good.
Patience, perseverance, and positivity.
Patience, persistence, and positivity.
Persistence. Sorry,
No, you're good.
I was close.
Hey, you got the 3 Ps.
That's why I
So
feel like it's also important when people talk about focusing on the things that you can control. Because when you're dealing with, especially if you're trying to get into something new, something you're not familiar with, there's so much that comes with that. And if you just focus on the things that you actually have control in, like your health or what you're putting into your body or how you're moving it, or people don't realize there's so much in society that we allow to program into ourselves, whether it's the music you're listening to, the shows you're watching. It's so crazy because I've definitely in the last 3, 4 years, I've gone from listening to music. And back in the day, it was like I was mainly listening to rap that had nothing to do with the lifestyle I was living. But I was like, oh, this
same
is good. I
girl.
like this.
Tupac was my guy. I had no idea.
Don't
To
get me
like
started on Eminem.
to like now where it's mainly podcasts or like audiobooks and things that I'm trying to utilize
Mm-hmm.
to help grow in the things that I want to be good at or like intentional about. And this is why it goes back to the mindset thing too. It's a conversation that needs to be had because there's so many outlying factors that play into our lives where if we're not being conscious about that, we feel like we have no control over anything.
Right. Yeah, it's all about what do you feed yourself. Oh, who was I just listening? And not just like food. Who was I just listening to that used a term that I was like, ooh, how do I incorporate this into something? Bread for your head. I was like, okay. Like feeding yourself like good things to your brain, bread for
Mm.
your head. And I was like, yeah. And I think it was Wayne Dyer on one of his like chats or whatever. But all of it is ingredients, right? Same like you were saying, I used to listen to music all the time. Like I would not get in the car if I didn't have
Hmm.
music playing. And I've gotten to the point where I like miss it now. So I'll randomly put it on because I haven't listened to it in so long. My playlist, not whatever is happening currently
Uh-huh.
in this.
We don't know
I
the
feel
new
like
songs
so
anymore.
old. I'm like, what are these kids listening to? What is this trash? So I feel like a grandma who listens to NPR now. But yeah, it's all about what are you putting into your head and how is that either benefiting you or hurting you? Or is it like just neutral and it has neither? But recognizing like people are just comfortable a lot of times and that's just what they watch or that's just what they listen to and they don't recognize no, it's a choice. Everything is a choice. And if you're hopping on the negativity bandwagon, you're creating that in your life. Like you're making that a choice versus being able to look at your day, like Luis, and say, I didn't feel great today, but I actually had pretty good conversations. And being able to take that as the positive side. And you really can get down to the nitty gritty. Like I was saying, with the sun came out today, right? You were able to make calls today. You got to choose what you did today. You could have chose not to make calls today. That's a huge privilege that people don't have. Jackie's on a fast. Like the fact that you're or cleanse. The fact that you're getting to choose what you eat is a privilege. And so just being grateful for having these options in front of you, even if they don't feel like the greatest option, like this isn't maybe the food you want to eat, but you made the choice and now you have the privilege to take that and see it through. Literally, you can find it in anything.
That's good. Yeah, I like talking about too, just being intentional about maybe things that we can reframe. I think that's where it's really powerful. Obviously, I think it's important too when you're dealing with things in the moment and you're almost like training yourself on how to respond to that. But I think you can work on that by going back in time and looking at things that might have been hard to go through or even how we were talking about with the childhood stuff, if there's things
Mhm.
to unpack there, you really don't have that opportunity to do so unless you're intentionally going back, sitting down, writing it out. You might find things that you didn't even realize were an issue to you. And one of the things I like Louise Hay, how she emphasizes with, because one of the things a lot of people will say is you should do affirmations. But I feel like she was one of the first that mentioned or emphasized doing it in the mirror. And I
Mhm.
haven't done it yet, but I know it's going to be weird for me.
It's so weird. It's so weird. I think one of her books, like she tells you to look in the mirror and say, I love you, and look at yourself directly in the eyes and say it. It's strange.
Mm.
I cried the first time I did it. Not Bloody Mary.
Oh, yes, the I Am app.
Yes,
I
yeah.
have seen that.
I love that. Yeah. But yeah, just saying the things to yourself in the mirror is you have to look at yourself directly in the eyes and do it. And it is weird because you don't talk to yourself in the mirror often.
But it's so important to talk to
I
yourself.
agree.
Like, yeah, so I'm looking forward to doing that. I feel like it's just weird when you live with other people, and I'm like, I don't want them to think I'm doing something crazy in the bathroom. Who is she talking to?
Can I make an admission?
You can do it in your head.
Go, Daniel.
So nobody ever knew this about me. Maybe my mom and dad, but I actually, growing up as a kid, talked to myself a lot.
Mm.
Same. I
And
was a
there's
lonely
been
child.
Oh, I bet. Like, I'm feeling you there only because I know you and I get along on so many things. I'm like, I cannot connect with Monica on this unless the way our childhoods
Mhm.
were. Pretty emotional, I'm willing to bet, although you and I had different experiences. But at the same time, it was always whenever I was by myself in my bedroom listening to music and in a weird way imagining myself in a music video of the song I was listening to, or maybe in certain movies. The best part being like the video games I played. Oh, freaking 7-year-old me thought I was a bad boy Spartan in a Halo video game. I'm like, whoa, killing aliens. But then I would imagine myself with the serious moments that would come in that video game too, regardless if it was emotional or having to take out an enemy, if you will. Point that I'm trying to make is those conversations, I ended up having real life conversations too to review my day.
Mm.
And prime example, working at Publix, instead of me saying, "Oh, like this person is just so freaking, like I hate it," it eventually became to where how could I have handled that conversation better with this customer? And it helps me out now with the calls that I'm doing as a closer for the team I'm on. How could I have tried to emphasize with this person a little bit better? They lost their dad and they need to sell their house. Oh boy, and then it goes back to what I mentioned earlier and keeping that positivity. Keep on talking to myself plenty of times, especially in the mirror, not just for affirmations, but for reviewing your day,
Hmm.
helped me tremendously. And
Absolutely.
the
Do you listen
affirmations,
to
it helps a
Dr.
lot
Joe
too.
Dispenza at all?
So, sort of, mom
Okay.
put me on Joe Dispenza,
Yeah.
but I haven't been doing my due diligence like I should with him.
Yeah. He has a one of the things, it's in one of his books. I'm not sure which one. There's several. But in one of his books, it's a practice that he recommends, and he uses the example of his children, where he sits down with them every night and he has them review their day. And he asks them, like, what are some times where you didn't show up as your best self? And then they'll tell him, I shouldn't have pushed Susie. It was just not necessary. She didn't need to be pushed or whatever. And he's like, okay, no big deal. Like the fact that you recognize it is huge. And then what can you do tomorrow where you can show up as your best self? And then it helps them completely reframe and they don't have that like shame and guilt that just bogs us down. And it's more about being honest and accountable for the things that you didn't do great, even if it's we're adults now. So we have habits. Like I didn't go on my walk today, even though I said I was going to. Tomorrow, I'm going to show up for myself and go on a walk. But if you don't do that review, then you aren't going to be able to find those times. And then also, he has them do all the things that were fantastic that day. Like, how were you great today? So that you can harness the good and the positive and everything, even if you had a crappy day. So, yeah,
Absolutely. I would even
having
take it a step further
conversations with
too.
yourself.
Absolutely. I would even take it a step further too, to where if anybody's in the Zoom is hardcore like me when it comes to physicality, doing 75 hard, take the time that you're working out, especially if you're like doing a walk for 45 minutes to review your day. If you're doing a walk in the morning, okay, probably plan out your day and try to get yourself prepped where, okay, I got to make these calls or I got to have a difficult conversation with babe, whatever it is. And if it's later in the day that you're doing your workout and it's just you and whatever music you're listening to or podcast, try to review your day then.
Hmm.
And with Joe Dispenza, I will try to listen to a podcast episode, at least one of
I'll
them
send
this
you my
week.
favorite one.
Please do. As a
Yeah.
matter of fact, I might be
Maybe
able
I'll
to
put it
listen
in
to.
the group because it's really good.
Oh yeah, that'd
Um,
be awesome.
yeah, it's a YouTube one, but I think it's on Spotify too. And
Oh, hook a
it's my
brother up,
favorite.
please.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's almost scary too if you don't think about it. So much can pass you by if you're not really intentionally thinking, let me go through my day. What, because even when I do, I'm starting to try and incorporate the 3 things that I'm grateful for, and it's funny because 'cause I'm doing it, but I'm doing it with Ray because 'cause I'm like, I'm trying to get him like, I'd like him to think the same thing, but I'm not putting any expectations for him to give me his 3. But I'm like, "Oh,
Right.
I'm just gonna tell you what I was grateful for today." And even when I'm doing that, I really have to think about my day. What did I do today? What was good about it? And if you're
Yep.
not taking that time and with anything, it could be what you've been working on or what different things. If you're not assessing yourself where you're at, you're missing so many things because time just keeps going by and it's like you can't keep track of all that
Wild.
stuff.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's wild.
It's
It's
crazy.
wild.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things where the conversations are so relatable because we're all trying to grow. I think that's why we're here.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting to see too, because depending on who your 5 closest people are in your life, maybe they're not on the same wavelength as you when it comes to things like that. And so it's cool when you're able to find a group of people that you can be vulnerable with and have those discussions and go deeper into the things that you're interested in. It's really cool to be able to do that.
I agree. And I think that's also why it's helpful to find audiobooks and podcasts that you feel like can help you because I try not to take for granted that Jackie and I have a fantastic friend circle that is on that like growth mindset. But I recognize not everyone has that, especially if you're starting and you haven't started to weird out all of your old friends.
Mm-hmm.
um like you start it just happens. It's just part of what happens when you start doing this growth mindset stuff, or God forbid you become an entrepreneur. People don't get you anymore. And so you just start leaving people behind. And it's not a one is better than the other. You're just not on the same frequency anymore. And the things that you talk about aren't the same. So having audiobooks that you can listen to or podcasts that you can listen to where the input, because that's what that whole like closest 5 people to you is like who's feeding you, right? So your input can be these outside sources that you don't actually know, but they can still feed you.
Yeah, I like that. That's a whole nother topic that we should talk about one day because it's interesting that you hear people talk about all the time, like my old self died or I'm this new person now. And that whole concept, I feel like I'm definitely on the further end of the transition, but it's weird to be, you're a
You've
new
never done the
person.
transition, Jackie.
Yeah, but no, but I'm like, I'm definitely in a different phase now
Oh, I
than I
know.
was like 5, 6 years ago. And it's weird, especially when you have those people, she's dead.
Facts. I love that meme. That's if you knew me a year ago, you don't know me anymore.
It's so real though,
Pretty
because and
accurate.
it's I've literally lived that where I met people and I was like the life of the party. I was such a big extrovert back in the day, and I'm still considered an extrovert, but I don't go out of my way to be in the mix like I used to be. And so I've had people where they know me from there and then see me like a year later and they're like, she's not, and they know it, she's not the same person, but it's almost like they're offended. Like they're like,
Totally. And they will be. Like you can't help it. It's because they're stuck in this vision of who you are and or who
but
they think
so
you're
it
supposed to be.
it can be hard because at least for me, sometimes I'd feel bad. I'm like, man, obviously I'm on a totally different trajectory. I understand that, but it's also, man, how do you explain all that to somebody that like, I'm like, I don't want you to think I'm not trying to like brush you off my shoulder or whatever the case may be. It's
Right.
just that I've learned so much from where I was and I'm a different person. I don't know. It's just weird. It's hard when you're in that mix of, and I'm very removed from it now, but I'm just speaking from whoever's at that moment now where that's all they're surrounded by. It's a hard transition to go through. Like people, I've had friends, and it's funny because he was like my best friend. I'm still friends with him to this day, but like I remember him looking at me and being like, "Who are you?" And I was like, like it's rough out here when you're first
Right?
trying to, improve yourself or and it's not to be like, "Oh, I'm better than you," or whatever the case may be. It's
No.
like you're finally taking initiative of your life, of improving, working towards specific things, being intentional. It's crazy.
Yeah, we
Mm.
definitely should do a whole thing on that because it's a trip. And people don't think that they need that they're not going to experience that, right?
Mhm.
Who was it that was on that was like all his friends do is talk about other people or whatever? And he's like, I don't have any friends left. And you're like, it's gonna be like that for a little while. He was like
Was it
walking around in a grocery store.
Dwayne?
Yeah. And it'd be like that sometimes. And you're just like,
Funny.
it can be that's why I was saying the whole podcast and audiobook thing, because it can feel kind of lonely at first. where if you're not at a networking event or you're not hanging out with your growth mindset people, you're like, who would I talk to about this stuff?
It's funny though, because to me, I'm like, I could always be in something, whether it's a YouTube video, a podcast. I feel like there's so much out there now, and until you think to look for it, like you don't realize like there's a plethora of stuff that you're gonna find, whether it's a podcast or an audiobook or whatever, that you're like, man, this is better than listening to music. This is better than I think for me, my biggest transition that I noticed is when I started to do that with while I was working out. I never thought I'd be somebody that would work out without music. I'm like, how do you do that? But I like that time of, and sometimes I'll listen to something that's a little more upbeat, but it's still like motivational speaking. It's like clips and compilations of it. And I'm like, this is motivating me to be better. And I just like that I'm feeding my brain and all that with that kind of energy and information.
Same.
Cool. Yeah. No, I think it was a good conversation, Monica. I think we should get into the meditation and do some harvesting.
Let's go. Yeah, I've actually been in my head about which direction to take this. So we'll see where I end up
Ooh.
once I'm in there.
That's funny. Okay, let me get this pulled up. If you want to talk about what people can expect if it's their first time joining.
Oh, yeah. So if this is your first time and you're able to, we're going to sit down, get comfortable. You can for sure turn off your camera if you don't want, but everyone's going to have their eyes closed, so we won't see you. But if you've never done a meditation before, I'm going to take you through just some deep breaths, and then I'm going to guide you through some kind of visual. Usually go for about 10 minutes, and then, yeah, we'll just come out slowly because we do usually feel pretty good afterwards. Danny, I don't know where you're going, but I hope you get to sit down.
Cigar lounge, so I can meditate with cigars.
Oh, okay. Rock out.
I'll turn off my camera though, so everybody's at peace.
That's funny. Okay, let's get this.
Okay, cool.
Sweet.
Okay. So go ahead and get comfortable. Sit with your hands facing up if at all possible. Close your eyes. And we're going to take 5 deep breaths. We're going to take these breaths deep into our belly, filling our belly first, then filling your chest. And slowly exhale through your nose. If you feel like you need a little bit more of a release, feel free to fill up as much air as you can and then release it through your mouth with a loud sigh. And then return to a slow inhale and a slow exhale with your nose. It'll help create what's called heart and mind resonance, where the rhythm of your heart and the rhythm of your brain frequency will line up and create a relaxed state. One more deep inhale. Exhale fully. Really squeeze all the air out. Release anything from today that is no longer serving you. And take a nice fresh inhale. Fresh air, fresh energy. And feel free to breathe naturally. Staying mindful of the oxygen air movement through your nose as it enters your body, and the air leaving your nose, the rhythm. Today we're going to talk about harvesting the good in all situations. Maybe you can think of a situation that has been bouncing around inside your head. Something that didn't go quite right. Time in your life that felt harder than it needed to be. A time when someone did you wrong. Or a time that you did someone else wrong. Whatever the situation is, there is a lesson to be learned. Imagine every time you think of this time or situation as you mining a river for gold. Imagine yourself walking up to the river, and you have your basket. And the first few times, maybe the first 100 times, all you get is dirt, muddy water. But as time goes by, or maybe after a good night's sleep, you can look at the situation and see something positive that came from it. You can start harvesting the gold, the good. Maybe you can look at it now and laugh. Maybe it was so ridiculous that it makes a great story. Maybe it taught you how to have compassion for others. Maybe you avoided something worse by being stuck in that situation. Maybe you became stronger, or maybe you became softer. Both are good. Maybe your heart opened more. Maybe someone you never expected reached out to you. Maybe a tragedy brought you closer to a family member, gave you more time with people you don't see often. Maybe it gave you a unique perspective that you can use to connect with someone else. You can help that person through a tough time. You can be their light. You can be that strange coincidence where they met someone who knew exactly how they felt. And now, the gold just shows up everywhere. All you do is find gold. Little bits of light in every situation. You can feel your heart warming with gratitude for how each situation has made you. Each experience has brought you closer to who you are today. Breathe into your heart. Magnify that feeling. Maybe next time the story plays in your mind, you'll have a slightly different reaction, slightly different perspective. The story will change. The story will feel lighter. Sometimes it can be helpful to write the story out. Watch how the story changes as you work on it. Maybe each time there's more and more good that you can harvest from the situation. Give yourself grace if this does not come easily for you, or if this particular story doesn't feel like there's any light to harvest, any good to harvest. It may be too muddy for today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe another day. Maybe this is the first time you've ever tried to find the good. Allow yourself time to practice. Let's take another deep breath in. With each exhale, feeling lighter. forgiveness for yourself, for anyone else involved, for the whole situation. Each inhale, breathing into your heart, and each exhale, feeling lighter, clearing out some of that muck and heaviness. And with this next inhale and exhale, feeling like you know you can come back to this at any time. I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us tonight, taking the time to go within, give yourself some time. We appreciate you joining us. The light within me sees and recognizes the light in each of you. Namaste. Feel free to stretch, start to come back to the room and open your eyes.
Awesome. That was great.
Thank you.
Alyssa, it's good to see you on the call. I'm glad you were able to make it.
Oh, hi, I missed you. I'm glad too.
Yeah, Alyssa's on a new adventure, guys. She just quit her W-2.
Let's
She
go.
I know it's a whole new year, so this is the perfect way to end this past year. So
All kinds
I'm
of
really
new stuff.
excited.
Awesome.
Allow me to bring the energy. Okay, I see you.
Daniel's funny. But yeah, so we're here every Tuesday, guys. Same link, 7 p.m. We always end on a meditation. We are still meeting next week, Christmas Eve, and the week after that, New Year's Eve. So if you guys want to come join us, we'll be here. Obviously, if you've got family, no hard feelings, we understand. But yeah,
Have them join.
yeah, put us on the TV.
Exactly.
That's a good
Broadcast.
idea.
That's awesome. But yeah,
I think, what are we doing next week?
it is the
It's,
power of giving.
oh, see, this could be very good for everyone Christmas Eve.
But yeah, you guys finish out this week strong. If there's anything we can help you out with, let us know. Monica, put that Joe Dispenza video in the group
I
and
will.
tag everybody. And yeah, if there's anything we can help with, you know where to find us, and we'll see you guys
Yeah.
next week.
Of course.
Awesome.
Thank you
Awesome.
for
We'll keep
coming.
seeing you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.